Kanye West storms off Piers Morgan uncensored after a fiery clash over his anti-Semitic remarks. The heated exchange turns personal, leaving viewers stunned as tensions boil over in a viral showdown. The studio lights burned bright, the atmosphere already thick with anticipation, as Piers Morgan leaned forward in his chair, his eyes locked on Kanye West, now insisting on being called Ye. The Piers Morgan uncensored set was no stranger to controversy, but tonight felt different. The air crackled with the weight of what was to come. Ye sat across from Piers, his posture rigid, his face a mix of defiance and unease. The audience, both in the studio and watching at home, could sense the storm brewing. This wasn't just an interview. It was a reckoning. Piers, known for his relentless probing, wasted no time. "Yeah, let's address the elephant in the room," he began, his tone sharp but measured. "Your behavior on social media over the past 2 years, particularly your anti-Semitic comments, has caused immense pain. You've got millions of followers, hanging on your every word. Don't you think you owe them, and the people you've hurt, some accountability?" His eyes narrowed, his fingers tapping rhythmically on the armrest. "First off, Piers, it's Ye. That's my name now, and I'd appreciate you respecting that." His voice was calm but carried an edge. "As for accountability, I'm accountable to myself and my truth. I speak what I see, what I feel. People can take it or leave it." Piers raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "That's not good enough, yeah? You don't get to just speak your truth when it spreads hate. Your words have consequences. You've been called out for anti-Semitism, and instead of apologizing, you double down." "Why?" He leaned forward, his voice rising slightly. "I'm not here to apologize for being me. The world's been trying to silence me for years, Piers. You think I don't know what's at stake? I'm not some puppet you can pull strings on. I say what I say because it's real to me," the audience murmured, sensing the tension escalating. Piers, never one to back down, pressed harder. "Real to you? Yeah, your reality has caused Jewish communities worldwide to feel targeted, unsafe. You've got a platform most people can only dream of, and you're using it to spread division. Do you not see the damage?" His jaw tightened, his voice now laced with frustration. "Damage? You want to talk damage? How about the damage done to me? The media, the industry, they've been coming for me since I stepped out of line. You're sitting there acting like you're some saint, Piers, but you're just another cog in the machine trying to tear me down." Piers's face hardened. "Don't make this about me, yeah. I'm asking you to own your actions. You can't deflect by pointing fingers. You've said things that are indefensible, and you're acting like you're above reproach. That's not courage. It's arrogance." The room felt smaller, the air heavier. His eyes flashed with anger. "Arrogance? You're calling me arrogant? You sit there with your smug grin acting like you've never said anything controversial. You're a hypocrite, Piers. You thrive on this chaos, don't you? You invite me here just to dunk on me." Piers leaned back, his voice cold. "I invited you here to have a real conversation, yeah, but if you're going to dodge and weave, then maybe you're not ready for one. You want to talk hypocrisy? Look in the mirror. You claim you're a visionary, but all I see is a man hiding behind excuses." Ye's voice boomed, cutting through the studio. "Excuses? I don't need excuses, I'm Ye. I've built empires while you're out here playing gotcha on TV. You don't get to lecture me about my life, my choices, my truth," the audience gasped, the raw intensity of Ye's outburst hanging in the air. Piers, unfazed, leaned forward, his voice dripping with disdain. "Your truth? Yeah, your truth is a mess of contradictions. You're not a visionary right now, you're a liability. And the sooner you realize that, the better." His chair scraped against the floor as he stood, his face a mask of fury. "You don't know me, Piers. You don't know what I'm fighting for. Call me a liability, At least I'm not a sellout like you, sitting there judging everyone else to feel better about your own failures." The studio fell silent, the weight of Ye's words sinking in. Piers's eyes glinted with something dangerous, his composure fraying. This was no longer an interview. It was a battle, and it was far from over. The studio's silence was deafening, a charged void where Ye's accusation of Piers being a sellout lingered like smoke. Piers's jaw clenched, his eyes boring into Ye, who stood defiant, chest heaving. The audience held its breath, sensing the confrontation teetering on the edge of chaos. Piers's voice, when it came, was low, almost venomous. "A sellout? That's rich, yeah? You, who's built your empire on shock value and controversy, calling me a sellout? At least I don't hide behind truth to justify hurting people." Ye's laugh was sharp, cutting. "Hurt people? Piers, you're out here every night tearing folks down for ratings. Don't act like you care about anybody's feelings. You're just mad 'cause I'm not bowing to your script." He paced a step, his energy restless, uncontainable. "You want to talk empire? I built mine from nothing. What have you built, huh? A career off other people's pain." Piers shot to his feet, his voice rising to match Ye's intensity. "Don't you dare lecture me about my career. I've been in this game long enough to know when someone's dodging accountability. You're not a martyr, yeah? You're a man who said vile things and expects the world to just nod along because you're famous." The audience murmured, some nodding, others visibly uncomfortable. He spun back toward Piers, his finger jabbing the air. "Vile? You want to talk vile? How about the way you twist people's words to make 'em look bad? You're not a journalist, Piers. You're a vulture, picking at people's lives for clicks. You invited me here to humiliate me, but I'm not your punching bag." Piers's face flushed, his control slipping further. "Humiliate you? Yeah, you're doing that all by yourself. You've got a platform that could inspire millions, and instead, you're using it to spew hate. You think you're untouchable? Because you're Ye? You're not. You're just a man, and right now, you're a man making a fool of himself." Ye's eyes widened, his voice dropping to a dangerous growl. "A fool? You're calling me a fool? Piers, I've changed culture, changed music, changed fashion, while you're out here chasing scandals. You're jealous, man. You're jealous 'cause you'll never be me. You'll never have the guts to stand for something real." Piers scoffed, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Stand for something real? Is that what you call your anti-Semitic rants? Real? Yeah, you're not standing for anything. You're just shouting into the void, desperate for attention. And it's pathetic." The word hung in the air, sharp and deliberate, a verbal slap. He froze, his face a storm of emotions. Anger, hurt, defiance. Pathetic? You want to go there, Piers? You're the one sitting in your fancy studio acting like you're above it. All. But you're nothing without people like me to prop up your sad little show. You need me more than I need you." The audience gasped, the raw hostility between the two men palpable. Piers stepped closer, his voice icy. "Need you? Yeah, I don't need you. The world doesn't need you right now. What we need is for you to take a hard look at yourself and stop acting like you're the victim here. You're not. The victims are the people you've hurt with your reckless words." His hands balled into fists, his voice shaking with rage. "Reckless? You want to talk reckless? How about you, Piers, with your history of shady deals and fake photos? Yeah, I know about your past. You're no saint, so don't come at me like you're perfect. You're a fraud, and everybody knows it." Piers's eyes blazed, his voice a controlled roar. "A fraud? You're one to talk, yeah. You stand there, preaching about truth, but you're living in a fantasy. You think you're some kind of messiah, don't you? That's what this is. You're not just reckless, you're deranged." The accusation landed like a bomb, the studio erupting in whispers. His face contorted, his silence more menacing than any shout. The battle had just crossed a line, and there was no going back. Yez's silence stretched, a coiled spring ready to snap, as Piers's accusation of him being deranged echoed in the studio. The whispers from the audience grew louder, a mix of shock and unease, but Yez's eyes never left Piers. His face was a mask of barely contained fury, his breathing heavy, deliberate. Piers stood his ground, his own anger simmering, daring Yez to respond. The Piers Morgan Uncensored set felt like a pressure cooker, and everyone knew the lid was about to blow. Finally Yez spoke, his voice low, almost a hiss. "Deranged? You? Think you can just throw that at me, Piers? You think you can call me crazy and walk away clean? You don't know what I've been through, what I've seen. You're just a loudmouth with a microphone trying to break me down. But I'm still standing." Piers didn't flinch, his tone cutting. "Standing? Yeah, you're barely holding it together. You're not some prophet fighting the good fight. You're a man spiraling, and everyone can see it. You think calling yourself a messiah makes you untouchable? It makes you delusional." The audience gasped, the word delusional hitting like a slap. Ye's hands trembled, his voice rising. "Delusional? You're the one living in a bubble, Piers. You sit here judging me, but you don't know what it's like to be me, to have the world on your back, tearing you apart. I'm not delusional. I'm awake. And you're too blind to see it." Piers shook his head, his voice dripping with disdain. "Awake? Yeah, you're lost in your own head. You're not fighting the world, you're fighting reality. You've got millions of fans who look up to you, and you're letting them down with every hateful word. You're not a hero, you're a tragedy." He stepped closer, his voice a raw snarl. "A tragedy? You're calling me a tragedy? Look at you, Piers, with your fake outrage, acting like you care about my fans. You don't care about them. You care about your ego, your show, your precious little reputation. You're a parasite, feeding off people's struggles." The studio felt electric, the hostility between them crackling. Piers's eyes narrowed, his voice cold and precise. "A parasite? That's cute, yeah? At least I'm not the one hurting. People to feel powerful. You're out there spreading hate, acting like it's some grand mission. You're not saving anyone. You're just dragging everyone down with you." His laugh was bitter, jagged. "Dragging people down? Piers? You've made a career out of that. You think you're better than me? You're worse. You hide behind your desk, throwing stones, but you're just as broken as anyone else. You're a coward, Piers. A coward who can't handle a real man like me." Piers's face reddened, his voice booming. "A real man? Yeah, a real man owns his mistakes. A real man doesn't hide behind excuses or lash out when he's called out. You're not a man right now. You're a child throwing a tantrum because the world won't bend to your will." His eyes flashed, his voice shaking with rage. "A child? You want to go there? You're the one acting like a bully, Piers, picking fights to feel big. You think you can talk down to me? I'm Ye. I've faced worse than you and came out stronger. You're nothing to me. Nothing." Piers leaned forward, his voice a controlled growl. "Nothing? Yeah, you're the one making yourself nothing. Every time you open your mouth, you lose more respect, more credibility. You're not a legend right now. You're a cautionary tale. And the saddest part? You don't even see it." His face twisted, his voice a roar. "A cautionary tale? You're out of line, Piers. You don't get to define me. You don't get to tell me who I am. I'm yeah, and I'm bigger than your pathetic show. Bigger than your cheap shots." He slammed his fist on the desk, the sound reverberating. The audience flinched, the tension now unbearable. Piers's eyes gleamed, his voice icy. "Bigger? Yeah, you're shrinking by the second. And if you don't stop, you'll have nothing left but your own echo." Yez's breathing was ragged, his eyes wild. The breaking point was close, and the world was watching. Ye's fist still hovered above the desk, the echo of its impact fading into the stunned silence of the Piers Morgan uncensored studio. His eyes, wild with fury, locked onto Piers, who sat unflinching, his icy words, "Nothing left but your own echo," cutting deeper than any shout. The audience was frozen, the air thick with the raw hostility of two men who'd abandoned all pretense of civility. This was no longer a debate, it was a collision, and the wreckage was about to spill over. Ye's voice trembled with rage, but there was a crack in it, a hint of something raw beneath the bravado. "My echo? Piers, my voice carries further than you'll ever know. You think you can erase me? You think you can make me small? I'm Ye. I'm a movement. You're just a man yelling at shadows." Piers leaned forward, his voice a blade. "A movement? Yeah. You're a man shouting into a void you created. You've alienated your fans, your peers, everyone who believed in you. You're not leading a movement. You're leading a meltdown. And it's time you faced that." His face contorted, his voice rising to a near scream. "A meltdown? You're trying to paint me as some lunatic, but you're the one obsessed with tearing me apart. You're desperate, Piers. Desperate to make me the villain so you can play hero. But you're no hero. You're a hack who's run out of tricks." The audience gasped, the venom in Ye's words matched only by the fire in his eyes. Piers's composure cracked, his voice booming. "A hack? Yeah, I'm doing my job, holding you accountable. You're the one who's run out of excuses. You stand there, acting like you're above it all, but you're drowning in your own chaos. You're not a genius right now. You're a mess." Ye stepped closer, his voice a guttural roar. "A mess? You don't know me, Piers. You don't know what I carry. I've fought battles you couldn't dream of, and I'm still here. You're just a vulture circling, waiting for me to fall. But I won't fall. Not for you. Not for anyone." Piers stood, matching Ye's intensity, his voice searing. "You're already falling, Ye. You're so lost in your own head you can't see it. You think you're a messiah, but you're just a man who's burned every bridge he's crossed. And now you're standing here, alone, screaming at me because you've got no one else left." The words hit like a sledgehammer. Ye's eyes widened, his breath hitching. For a moment he seemed to falter, the weight of Piers's accusation sinking in. Then with a sudden, explosive motion, he ripped off his mic, the cord snapping free. "I'm done," he spat, his voice raw. "I don't need this. I don't need you. I'm Ye, and I'm bigger than your garbage show." He turned, storming, toward the studio exit, the audience erupting in shocked murmurs. Piers called after him, his voice sharp. "Run away, Ye. That's what you do when the truth gets too heavy. But you can't outrun yourself." The door slammed behind Ye, the sound reverberating like a gunshot. The studio fell silent, the audience stunned, Piers standing alone under the harsh lights. He turned to the camera, his face a mix of exhaustion and resolve. "That, ladies and gentlemen, is what happens when someone refuses to face their own reflection. He is a man with immense talent, but talent doesn't excuse hate. It doesn't excuse pain. And it doesn't excuse running from accountability." He paused, his voice softening. "This isn't about winning or losing. It's about what we owe each other as people. Words matter. Actions matter. And tonight, we saw what happens when someone forgets that." The camera lingered on Piers as he sat, the weight of the confrontation settling. The broadcast cut to black, but the internet was already ablaze. Clips of Ye's outburst, Piers's biting retorts, and the dramatic walkout went viral, sparking endless debates. Some called Ye a misunderstood genius, others a reckless provocateur. Piers was hailed as a truth-teller by some, a bully by others. But beneath the noise, a deeper question lingered. What does it mean to wield influence in a world so quick to amplify division? Ye's storm-off was a spectacle, but Piers's final words were the quiet triumph. a call to responsibility that resonated long after the lights dimmed.